Early morning hours. The household hasn't woken up yet. A sound comes from outside. A car passing. Then it stops. A door closes. And then silence again. A pleasant silence. One that expects nothing from anyone and asks nothing of you. For some people, this moment is the safest moment of the day. That moment when no one asks anything, calls you anywhere, expects anything. There are people who love staying home. For them, home is not a place to hide. But people generally think that way. You are running away from people. You are missing out on life. You should go out more. The sentences are all too familiar. But for someone who loves staying home, what really matters is something else. That weight that lifts from your shoulders when the door closes. Something you carry without noticing outside, slowly dissolving inside. As if all day long a certain tone, a certain attention, a certain tempo is demanded of you. But when you enter home, you can suspend that state. This isn't laziness, and it isn't fear either. But still, a question comes from within. Is it right to hang out at home? Is life flowing somewhere else? While everyone is doing something, what am I doing? Sometimes staying home feels like peace, sometimes like guilt, sometimes both. Maybe the issue isn't home. The issue is what's constantly demanded of you outside. Some people realize this early. Some years later, Leon was one of them. He was 30 years old. His life was orderly. He went to work in the morning, came home in the evening. Most weekdays were like this. What about weekends? Weekends were different. When he came home Friday evening and closed the door, there was a relief inside him, as if he was releasing a breath he'd been holding all week, slowly, completely. We should put down his bag and take off his shoes. He would make tea and stretch his feet out on the couch. For a while, he would just relax, without doing anything. Without looking at his phone, without trying to get somewhere. In those moments, home felt different, not bigger or quieter, less demanding. It didn't ask anything of him. It just allowed him to be there. People always say the same things about those who love staying home. They are avoiding people. They are shy, they are not social. But that's not really true. Leon wasn't running from people. On the contrary, he loved people. He loved talking, laughing. He loved doing things together. But this had a cost. Hard to notice, but real. Being with people had its costs. It required attention and energy. It required being there with your whole being. Like the need to answer every question, to fill the silence. Leon wasn't unsuccessful at this. In fact, he was quite good. But after every socialization, he felt something diminishing. This deficiency only returned to normal at home and alone. Leon had a ritual. Saturday morning, he wouldn't wake up early. He wouldn't wake up very late either. When he opened his eyes, thin, soft light filtered from the curtain to the ceiling. He would lie there for a while. He had no reason to get up. There was nothing he had to do. This feeling was so rare. When he would go to the kitchen, not coffee, he would make tea. Always tea. He would fill the teapot and wait. He would hear the sound change, the sound of boiling. He would fill his cup and breathe in that scent. Then he would return to the couch. Sometimes he would choose a book or just sit. Sometimes he would turn on music at a low volume, very low, at a level almost inaudible. That morning belonged to him. No one would ask anything. Rarely the phone would ring or someone would knock. Those hours were the best hours of the week. But from the outside, there were the ones that looked emptiest. Sometimes this tranquility would be disrupted. A voice would come, soft but insistent. Why aren't you going somewhere? It's a beautiful day. You should be outside. Everyone is doing something. This voice wasn't really Leon's voice, but it came from inside him. It had accumulated over the years, because he had heard these things all his life. If the weather is nice, you go outside. On weekends, you don't sit at home. You intermingle with people, otherwise it's not healthy. You should be more social. Leon had now memorized what was said. It had gotten under his skin. Now, even if no one said it from outside, that voice continued inside. When he stretched out on the couch, that voice would come. Again, Leon would sometimes hear about his friends' weekend plans. Someone had climbed a mountain. Someone had gone to a museum. Someone had coffee with an old friend. Someone had eaten at a newly opened place on the other side of the city. Leon had stayed home that day. He had drunk tea and read a little. He had looked out the window. In a sense, he hadn't done anything. He had nothing to tell. It felt strange, as if life was flowing somewhere else. Everyone was in a river and he was sitting on the river's shore. He could hear the river, lively, moving, but Leon was on the shore. Being on the shore came with both peace and pressure. Did he want to go? Rarely. But when he went, after a while he felt something else. Not exactly tiredness. A tension. Thin, constant tension. As if something inside him was always on alert, always ready. When he returned home, the tension would relax. It was a winter evening. Leon hadn't gone out that day. He had been home since morning. As it got dark, he looked outside through the window. The street light was on. There was a thin layer of snow on the ground. Someone passed with quick steps. They had left footprints all along the way. Then other footprints overlapped on top. Leon watched, thought about where they were going. They had a purpose. They were going places. That feeling rose inside him again. What are you doing? He went to the kitchen, started making food. He chopped the onion, its scent filled the kitchen. He heard the hiss of gas, then the flame caught. He closed the lid of the pot and waited. In that moment of waiting, the home felt unmistakably his. That smell, that sound, that warmth, no one outside was seeing this. No one could know what he felt. He was completely there and at peace. Then he sat at the table, slowly ate his food. That evening, the snow, the food, the silence. Did he want to go somewhere? Not really. That table, that moment was the only real thing. People who love staying home have another characteristic. They need time to prepare for transitions. They don't want to burst outside as soon as they wake up in the morning. Time is needed to get used to the day. When they return home in the evening, they are not immediately ready to go somewhere. Time is needed to leave the day behind. This is not laziness, even if some see it that way. Leon had planned a dinner with a friend. It was a nice plan, but during the day, as he approached the plan, a restlessness began inside him. Excitement or tension. or both together. When evening came, he went. They laughed, chatted, ate a good meal. It really went well. When he opened the door and entered home that evening, all that weight flew off him. In its place came that familiar feeling. He relaxed. Why was he so attached to home? Leon thought about this from time to time. Why did he feel more complete inside rather than outside? He wasn't lacking outside either. There was nothing wrong outside, but there was always a state of being careful. Careful of what? Not quite clear, just a carefulness. Constant, low-key, hard to notice. When he came home, that carefulness would decrease. A shift he could feel immediately, clear and real. Maybe home was the only place where that carefulness wasn't needed. No one expected anything. No one expected a reaction, an answer, a state, a voice. Leon could just be himself, without taking any shape, without any obligation. This was hard to explain. He was himself outside too, but at home, being himself required less effort. One day his mother called. "What are you doing this weekend?" she asked. "I'll be at home," said Leon. There was a mutual silence. "Why don't you go out a bit?" "The weather is nice too," Leon said. "Maybe I'll go out, but I'm fine at home too." His mother said a few more things calmly, but behind it was a worry. Leon heard that worry. After hanging up the phone, he thought for a while. His mother's voice, that worry. Was Leon really okay, or was he missing something? Did being okay require being outside? He wasn't sure, but he knew this. That evening, that couch, that tea, that window, those hours didn't feel empty. On the contrary, he felt more alive, silent, invisible, but real. People who love staying home sometimes feel they have to defend themselves. But you refuse to go somewhere, you need to explain. "I'm tired," you say, or some other time. But giving the real answer is harder. "I want to go home because the outside constantly drains me. I'm happy and comfortable at home. This is my truth." Saying this is generally difficult because it's prone to shallow understanding, or lazy, or cowardly. Leon wouldn't say it anyway. He would say, "I'm tired," or "let's go later." But the real answer was hidden inside. Winter passed, spring came, the days grew longer. The light entering through the window changed. It was more yellow now. It stayed longer in the room. Leon was in his same spot on Saturday morning. Same couch, same tea. But the light was different. This small difference changed everything a bit. Sounds were coming from outside. Children, a bicycle, someone's laughter. Leon heard those sounds. Something stirred inside. Did he want to go outside? For a moment, yes. He got up, opened the window slightly. Spring air entered. He drew the scent of fresh, damp earth into his lungs. He felt that vitality without leaving. There, at that window, standing beside that couch. Maybe this was enough, maybe it wasn't. He didn't think much about it. There's a truth that can be said about people who love staying home. These people don't belittle life. They don't give up on the world. They just live life at a different pace. Slower, with fewer stimuli, less demanding. This is not living less. Most of the time, it's living up more deeply, taking great pleasures from small moments. But this difference isn't visible from the outside. Because it's not visible, it's hard to explain. Maybe not for everyone, but real all the same. In the evening, Leon would sometimes look out the window. He would see the lights burning in the opposite buildings. A different life in each window. Someone was in the kitchen, someone in the living room, someone in darkness. Maybe they had fallen asleep. What did he feel while looking at those windows? Curiosity, longing, or just looking? He didn't know. He was just observing, a little every evening. Without going out, he could still feel the world outside, being part of the whole, but from a distance, with his own warmth and silence. Was this enough? Was it healthy? Was it escaping or choosing? Leon didn't know the answer. Even if these questions sometimes made him uneasy, he generally didn't care about them. One morning, Leon took his tea, went to the window and sat down. There was a bird outside, on the roof. Leon watched it. The bird carried the twig in its mouth to the nest it was newly building. Then it flew off to find more. Leon looked at the empty roof. He drank his tea. The cup had cooled a bit. A question formed in his mind. Is being here missing something? Or is being here sometimes seeing what no one else sees, living what no one else lives? No answer came, but the question remained that morning, inside that couch, with that cool tea. It remained with Leon. Maybe the answer wouldn't come, or maybe the answer depended on who was giving it.